Yo, what is going on, guys? My name is Mikey, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about how the iPad Pro in 2021 is probably the ultimate student investment that basically any student can make. Now, I personally made the transition about a year and a half ago, and I can honestly say it's made a huge difference in the amount of time I'm saving when it comes to writing notes and as well as studying the notes and taking notes during lecture. It's super efficient and it saves so much time. Now, I personally, back in the day when I didn't have the iPad, I used to use so many pens and highlighters and multiple different papers and multiple different notebooks organized for every single class, and that honestly took forever to find specific information. Let's say I was studying for a specific exam and I wanted to go back to my calculus notes and I wanted to find a specific lecture. It would honestly take me about 5 minutes to just find that specific lecture. And even in worse scenarios, when I used to go to school and forget a notebook at home, I'd have to bus back, and that would honestly just take forever. And it was just such a big hassle that was all overcome by having this thin iPad relative to all the notebooks that I had originally. Now, aside from the fact that it takes forever to try to find your notes in lecture, a lot of people might be like, oh, I don't like writing on a digital screen, and that is totally understandable. I'm exactly like that. So what I did is I actually got a screen protector called the Paper-Like Screen Protector, and essentially what that does, it makes the screen more rough than the regular, digital screen that your iPhone or any tablet or any computer you have has, and it makes it feel like a regular notebook. Now, the good thing about this is that you're never gonna basically rip your piece of paper. So I know you've all been in that scenario when you're writing something on your notebook and you're just, grinding those lectures, you're grinding those hours in, you're putting them in, and next thing you know, the page rips, and that really sucks. And then you're really delicate with it, you're really fragile because you don't want it to rip even more, and you will not have that issue with the iPad. Now, I know what a lot of you might be thinking. You're like, okay, well, I type things up on a keyboard and I'm pretty fine with that, and maybe that works for you, and I totally agree, it could work. However, research has shown, there was actually an article that I talked about in a previous video called "The Pen is Mightier Than the Keyboard," and that research has actually shown that people that type up their notes actually end up performing worse on their class than people that write it down by hand. Now, that begs the question, what about the students that prefer to write things down on hand in a notebook? And that's totally understandable. And that's exactly what I talked about earlier, and that it takes forever to try to find specific notes and specific lectures when it can all be accessible on this iPad. Not to mention all the money you're gonna have to waste on highlighters and pens, different colors of them, when you could just honestly waste all that on an Apple Pencil. Now, if you already currently have an iPad, comment down below and tell me exactly how you guys use that iPad. Now, everything I'm gonna talk about in this video will be labeled right here, so if there's a specific timestamp that you want to skip to, feel free to do so. Now, before I start the video, I would ask that all you guys please smash that like button down below right here, because it does help me out so much. And also subscribe to my channel if you do like the videos I make, and even if you don't like them, feel free to subscribe anyways, because it does help me out. And so the first thing we're going to discuss is that it reduces clutter. So let me just give you guys a quick look of everything that I used in my first year of university. So here I have my textbook. I have my chemistry note. This is just strictly for my chemistry lab, not even just the course. Chem lab, you can see how much stuff there is. And just take in, obviously this was probably organized at one point, but you know how it is, the more you do it, it just goes all over the place. That's just chemistry. Here we have biology lab. Here we have chemistry course. My second chemistry course. We have textbook. Look at all this that I could have literally just had on my iPad, and look how much space it's taking. Look at the size of this textbook. Look how huge this is. I could have literally put this on my iPad. Something this small literally fills all of this. And there's even way more over here, oh my gosh. A bunch of textbooks over here. There's just so much. Just take in how much your back will actually thank you. After reducing all this clutter, I'm not even joking, I actually, my back problems, literally decreased because of all this stuff that I used to carry in my bag. Obviously I wouldn't put all this on the same day, but every single morning I have to think, okay, what classes do I have today? What stuff do I need to pack? And then I would pack it, and then some days I would forget, and I have to bus all the way back to, get my notebook, or I would write it down on a piece of paper, and then I want to reincorporate it into my notebook, and then it just wouldn't be organized because now I'm using a regular piece of paper, and it just got super confusing, and it was not organized at all. It was literally causing me stress. Having all this stuff was literally just stressful by itself, not including the stress of the actual courses. Okay, let's just put these away. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Now, aside from reducing all that clutter and letting the iPad be so extremely portable, a great feature that the iPad has is something called Sidecar. And that is essentially when you could have two different desktops for your computer. So you essentially have one big desktop that you're, seeing everything, and then you could actually use your iPad as a second desktop. So this is really useful when I'm doing essays for classes, or I'm writing a lab report and sometimes I have to search up a bunch of research articles, or for note taking. You could have two different screens, one to watch the lecture and one to take the notes, or one to watch the lecture and one to type everything everything up. And I actually used to use it a lot in coffee shops, because in coffee shops, I didn't have that much real estate, you know, I didn't have that much area to work around. So what I essentially did, I took my laptop and I took my iPad, and I essentially had a 2-monitor setup in the coffee shop. And it was actually really, really good. And I used to get a lot of work done using this whole Sidecar feature. Now, a great thing about the iPad in general with most apps, especially the app that I use, which is Notability, is that you can command find essentially anything. Now, I have probably the worst handwriting that you will probably like ever see like in your life. And I'm gonna show you exactly right now how it could actually like look. So I write in cursive, right? And my friends actually make fun of me a lot just because, you know, they can't read my handwriting. Like I'll send them notes and then no one can read anything. So people don't usually ask me for notes just because they're not gonna be able to read anything. But I'll basically show you right now how I can write cursive handwriting, like ugly handwriting, and Notability will be able to find it. And like I said earlier, it reduces all that friction of going through your notes or going through the textbook and trying to find the exact word. And it just takes forever. But with the iPad, I'll show you exactly how it works. So here, essentially, I have Notability. You know, I have all my classes that I've taken, whatever. If I open up a random note and I write, I don't know, let's say write Michael, right? It's not really like perfect handwriting. And let's say I were to search up Michael, let's see if it'll catch it. Search Michael, you see what happened? It was able to read my mediocre handwriting like at best, and it was able to provide it legible. So if your handwriting is even remotely better than mine, then you will have absolutely zero problems and it will search up everything. Now, if you write in printing, which is way better, it's even easier for Notability to search things up. So for now, if I search up Michael, it clearly sees that there's 2 Michaels. But if I write George, you know, obviously it's not gonna highlight George because George is not Michael. I mean, pretty obviously. So that's why I like it a lot, because even with my trash handwriting, Notability could still read it. And, you know, honestly, I just think that's really cool because Notability can read my handwriting, but my friends can't read my handwriting. So I just think that's cool in general. Now, what frustrates me so much about writing notes by hand is that you can't back up anything. So essentially, if you lose a notebook or you lose a piece of paper, it's good game, like it's gone. You'll you can't, there's nothing you could do to retrieve it, right? There's literally nothing you could do. But with the iPad, there's multiple different ways that you could back up all your information. Like I was saying on Notability in one of my previous videos, I talked about how you could back it up to Google Drive, OneDrive, you know, multiple different platforms that you could back things up on. But not only that, the iPad itself is backed up with all your apps, all your messages, emails, everything, as well as any files that you have in iCloud Files. So I use iCloud Files a lot, and that is essentially this app right here that is coordinated with my computer as well as my phone. So anytime I want to pull up a lecture, I want to find anything that has to do with school that I downloaded on iCloud on my desktop, downloads, anything, I could find it on iCloud Files. So literally this semester, third year 3B, I can go to Kin 146 and I could find everything up here, and it is all backed up. Now, not only that, iCloud Drive, I could go to my desktop. So I press on desktop. This is everything on my desktop right now. So I can literally find anything I need at, you know, literally like 4 seconds versus with my notebook where it would take me literally forever. Now, another thing that frustrated me so much with taking regular notes by hand is that I could never edit my notes when it came to writing things down in lecture or after lecture. It would take me forever to have to resize everything and erase using an eraser, write things down again, or I would have to use another page, and that would just honestly take forever. Now with the iPad, what a very cool feature that different apps have, especially Notability, which is the app that I mainly use, is that you could resize a lot of things. So let's say I were to come up on my iPad right here and I want to resize this paragraph, for example. I could easily just lasso it, pull it all around, and I can make it smaller, make it larger, and I could do the exact same thing with any sentence, any word, anything at all. Now, what you could also do that's super effective and super useful is, let's say there is a picture that you want to include in your notes that was not posted online. This happens actually a lot. Like in my classes, sometimes, you know, a teacher will put supplemental information or they'll add something quickly on a slide that they didn't post online. So let's say I were to take a quick picture right here, use photo, you can see that it was added right here, and I could basically resize it and put it wherever I like. Now let's talk about the Apple Pencil a bit. So like I was saying in lecture, a lot of people have different colored pens and highlighters, and that's really cool because it makes your notes really, really appealing. Now with the Apple Pencil, this essentially is like the holy grail of the iPad. I honestly think getting an iPad with the Apple Pencil is really, really useless. But I'll exactly show you how I use the Apple Pencil. So the Apple Pencil has some cool features with it. Of course, you could kind of choose any color you want when it comes to note taking, you know, different ones. You could also change the stroke type. You can make them really thick. You can make them really thin as well. Now you could also do something called force touch when you're taking notes, and that is essentially where the harder you press on the page, the thicker the line will be. So let's say I were to write really lightly here, but then here I'm gonna write really hard. So you can see the thickness of this line is much thicker than the thickness of this line. So that's kind of cool. I don't really use it that often because I kind of just like change the strokes here. I prefer that more, but that's another cool feature that you could always have. Like I said, you could always change the colors. Now you could also double tap and it'll take you to the most previous setting. You could either have it set up where it'll take you to the eraser or the most previous setting. I personally just prefer the most previous setting, and that is really nice because it helps you save a lot of time. So I'm erasing, let's say I want to erase something and I want to quickly write something, and I can come back to writing, come back to erasing, come back to writing, oops, come back to writing. That was really, really easy versus pulling out the eraser and coming here and erasing everything that you have. Now with the iPad Pro in particular versus the iPad Air, there's something called Pro Motion Stability, and that is essentially how the screen will refresh at a much higher rate. So essentially as you're writing, there's essentially gonna be very, very minimal lag, and that's also another cool thing that the iPad Pro in particular has that the iPad Air doesn't have as much as the iPad Pro. Now, multitasking is also another huge thing on the iPad, and that is essentially how you could have multiple different things running at the same time. Pretty self-explanatory. So let's say I have Notability open right here. I can quickly just take Safari and make another window with it, so then I can have two things open. Let's say I have a video going on that I want to take notes about. I can literally go through the video, do whatever I like, and at the same time, I'm taking notes at the same time. And you can do that with messages. You want to text someone in class. You can do that with emails. You're emailing someone, and it's kind of like Sidecar, like I said earlier, with the computer, and how you could have essentially two different displays. Now the final thing I'm going to discuss is the pricing of an iPad. Like if I were to show you the storage on my iPad, you can see that my iPad is 256 gigabytes, and I personally only use 73 of the 256 gigabytes. And you can see that the majority of my 73 gigabytes is essentially apps. Now, obviously you're not gonna have this many apps. I kind of just, any app I download, I like tell myself I won't really delete it because there might be a case like in the far-fetched future that I might need it. Like honestly on my iPad, the only apps that I kind of use is like, there's literally like 10 apps and the rest I don't even use. Like personally, I don't even like play games on my iPad, but I have multiple games, like just in case in the rare occurrence that I might need to play a game. Actually, that essentially wraps up why I think all students should get the iPad Pro, especially in 2021. Now, if you did enjoy this video, I hope you guys, you got a lot out of it and that it essentially lured you into the Apple ecosystem and it lured you into purchasing an iPad Pro. If you did enjoy it, comment down below what iPad you have. If you don't have an iPad, comment down below what iPad you're thinking of getting and how you want to use the iPad and for what classes. Really comment down below anything you want and I'll really appreciate it, and I'll probably heart every single comment. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Also like the video if you did enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take it easy. Cheers. Of the 256 gigabytes.